Election headquarters. Here is This Week in Louisiana Politics.
Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Fred Childers. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. Let's get started. Governor Jeff Landry announced there will be additional security around the Superdome and French Quarter during Super Bowl weekend. Capitol reporter Shannon Hecht brings us the details you need to know.
Governor Jeff Landry announced that there will be enhanced security zones around the Superdome and French Quarter during Super Bowl weekend. This is to ensure that this event remains safe. The governor announced an enhanced security zone that stretches from St. Anne Street to Canal along Bourbon Street. There's also a zone surrounding the Superdome and other Super Bowl event locations that will be protected through local, state, and federal forces.
They have worked hard to balance security with the freedom to enjoy yourself in public spaces.
In the enhanced zone, there will be security checkpoints, and ice chests and coolers will be banned. This is because the New Year's Day terror attacker planted IEDs in the area in similar containers. Anyone bringing a bag larger than a small purse on Bourbon Street will be subject to a search.
You are free to refuse it, but you are not free to enter. Make sure you understand. So if you will not allow them to search it, you will not be allowed to enter.
These zones will be in effect from February 5th to the 10th to encompass the entire busy weekend.
Those force multipliers are ways that we have never seen them in the city before. And also understanding that while the Super Bowl is a Tier 1 rated by the federal government, we're still going above and beyond what we've seen in the past as we've hosted, 10 previously.
The Louisiana National Guard is sending 351 troops to aid in the event. And Mayor Cantrell commented that the NFL has said that this is the most well-coordinated security effort they have seen. The governor says that they want to get through Super Bowl weekend first and then will pivot towards security around the many events for Mardi Gras. In Baton Rouge, I'm Shannon Hecht.
And new this week, families of some of the victims in the Bourbon Street terror attack are suing the city of New Orleans. Ashley Hamilton brings us the details of that lawsuit.
We can't keep being asked to be resilient and to put our trust in leadership that is going to wait for the levees to break instead of checking for cracks.
A second lawsuit has been filed against the city of New Orleans for its alleged failure to prevent the New Year's terror attack.
This tragedy was not an unavoidable act of violence, but it's deeply troubling that municipal leaders and contractors were clearly aware of the vulnerability of Bourbon Street to this type of predictable and foreseeable event.
In the lawsuit, the plaintiffs list multiple examples in which they claim the city and other defendants failed to protect the public. They include safety bollards being removed, the NOPD's inability to follow its own security protocols, and city contractors delaying safety installments to protect large public gatherings due to their focus on preparing for the Super Bowl.
The actions or failure to act by all defendants enabled this tragedy to take place. Not only was there a lack of a reliable safety plan for Bourbon Street, but also there was no suitable backup plan that would prevent a large-scale tragedy such as this.
The firms are representing 21 plaintiffs who say they're forever traumatized by the attack.
I have continuous flashbacks and no longer want to be in large crowds or events. I don't think I will ever visit Bourbon Street again, let alone return to New Orleans.
Attorneys say the basis of the lawsuit is for the city to be proactive rather than reactive when it comes to safety. They also say they're not worried about the defendants attempting to use an immunity clause.
If they engage in reckless conduct, conscious disregard conduct, indifference. So if you engage in that type of conduct, your immunities don't exist.
Well, class is back in session for an LSU law professor that was suspended by the university. This comes after a judge agreed with his lawyer. Ken Levy was granted a temporary order by Judge Don Johnson Thursday to go back to teaching. Levy's attorney filed a lawsuit earlier this week saying his client is protected because of free speech. The university removed the professor following comments made to his students about Governor Landry and President Donald Trump back in November. Louisiana's national rankings are up in reading and math for 4th and 8th grade students, this according to a nationwide test. Since 2022, Louisiana has jumped from 42nd to 16th overall in 4th grade reading. It's also now 29th in 8th grade reading and 43rd in 8th grade math. State Superintendent Cade Brumley spoke earlier this week about the state's progress.
Today, as the governor shared, we celebrate historic progress. Our advancement isn't simply because other states failed. It's because Louisiana students demonstrated progress in 2 foundational areas, reading and math. Never has our state ranked higher in 4th grade reading, but also never has our state ranked higher in 4th grade math, or 8th grade reading, or 8th grade math.
Brumley says Louisiana has made tremendous progress in those areas, but there is still more work that needs to be done. Term limits will be making their way to the ballot in Bossier City, and voters will decide whether they want them. This comes after a decision by the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. Miriam Samaki reports.
Are you guys going to dare to object again?
In a unanimous vote, Bossier City Council is allowing citizens to make their voice heard. Term limits will be on the ballot, whereas anyone who has held office for more than 3 terms would no longer be eligible to run. Some citizens say they are frustrated the process took so long.
We all know why this is going forward to the people today, and it's on our agenda. It's on the agenda because the Second Circuit Court of Appeals said you have to. This body twice ignored lawful petitions presented, which is a First Amendment protected activity.
Cassie Mae Rogers also spoke, a Bossier City resident who filed a lawsuit against City Council in September of 2024.
I could describe the actions of this council as wild, unbelievable, malfeasant, dereliction in duty, unlawful, and so many more. But the bottom line is that they had a choice, and Mr. Mayor, actions have consequences. Trust me when I say that if the roles were reversed and you broke any of these city laws, you wouldn't be allowed to be the mayor anymore.
Public Information Officer Louis Johnson spoke on behalf of the mayor, who has been a supporter of term limits getting on the ballot.
Mayor Chandler has been a big supporter of term limits, so he too was glad to see that the citizens will have an opportunity to vote on it. We took the long route, if you would, but I think that those who oppose had a right to do so. And so now that we see that the courts have made their ruling, we are proud to abide by that ruling.
Councilman at large Chris Smith has also been a supporter of term limits. He says legal action had run its course.
I think it was more just a warning, not just to Bossier City Council, but to politicians all over. You have a ministerial duty, and it's okay to question, but there will come a time where you have to perform your ministerial duty.
The St. Landry Parish School Board voted in a new policy regarding students' names and pronouns. The policy reads, employees only need to address students by their legal name or a derivative of it, and the pronoun consistent with the student's sex. LGBTQ+ community activists say this won't make transgender students disappear. If a teacher refers to a student by anything other than the pronoun consistent with their sex or their legal name, parents can seek corrective action through the school principal. People running for office in the new city of St. George made it official this week at the Clerk of Court's office. Multiple candidates qualified for the ballot. That includes many members of the current interim leadership, including Mayor Dustin Yates, Police Chief Todd Morris, and 4 council members.
This is great. This is the fun part. This is when we get to build St. George. So my husband and I have been involved for a long time, and we want to keep building the momentum.
St. George also plans to have its home rule charter on voters' ballots in March. The document lays out the new type of government, officials' salaries, financial management, and more. Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana grills RFK Jr. over his stance on vaccines. But what does it mean for RFK's confirmation to become the health secretary? That's next. Stay with us.